Well, we've got new video out of Saudi Arabia today. Anti-government protesters taking to the streets in Saudi Arabia for what they have been billing for weeks now as a day of rage in the Saudi capital. They are defying blatantly and openly that country's strict ban on demonstrations. Many thought this would not happen because people are so fearful of the government there and its heavy-handed approach when people disobey the law. Nonetheless, they are out in droves, as you can see right now, and this follows several uprisings throughout the Middle East, from key allies like Egypt to what we've been seeing in Bahrain and Libya. But destabilization in Saudi Arabia, folks, would take things to a whole new level. KT McFarland is a Fox News national security analyst, and she's host of Fox News Live's DEFCON 3. KT, thank you for being here. So they said it would happen, and it's happening. There were doubts about whether folks would do it because of, they didn't want to be killed, basically. They were worried that King Abdullah would strike down in a way that was really fierce and violent. So far, doesn't appear to be that way. Put it in perspective for us.
Okay, the reason Saudi Arabia is really the most important of all of these countries is because Saudi Arabia has always served as the safety net when it comes to oil. When the oil price gets too high, the United States asks the Saudis, pump a little more oil, bring the price of oil down. As we saw with Libya just last week. Libya is an oil exporter, and so as a result of the violence in Libya, oil prices went up. So that we asked the Saudis, pump a little more oil, bring the price down, and they've always done it. So what happens if Saudi Arabia becomes destabilized? What happens if the demonstrations that you're seeing right now lead to something more? What happens in Saudi Arabia if the eastern province of Saudi Arabia, which is where all the oil is, and that has a large Shiite minority? Now, Saudi Arabia in general is Sunni, and the majority of the population is Sunni. The royal family is Sunni. But if there are demonstrations Shiite-Sunni that break out in Bahrain, in Saudi Arabia, what does that do to the stabilization of the region?
What does that mean as a practical matter? In Egypt, we were able to understand that, one of the strongest factions was the Muslim Brotherhood, and, a lot of folks said, that's not who we want running Egypt, and Americans were able to sort of understand what the risks were. Now we've got a stable regime in Saudi Arabia, one that's friendly to the United States. Who is posing the challenge here, and what do we need to know about them?
Well, I think any real shaping of the Saudi Arabian regime is a long way off. Saudi Arabia is one of the richest countries in the region. It has a lot of extra money to make life a lot better for those people. Just last week, it announced $36 billion of low-interest, no-interest loans it was going to offer to its people, and it's been given an increase of 15% salary raise to its government workers. So they're trying to use a lot of money as carrots in a carrot and stick, offering. Now, what you've seen today with these demonstrations, they're using the stick. They're saying no demonstrations in Saudi Arabia. We're going to break up these crowds. We don't want it to happen. So I don't think Saudi Arabia is in any kind of danger. Nothing like Tunisia was, or Egypt, or even Libya. But the fact that there are demonstrations at all in Saudi Arabia has them very, very nervous. If you go back to the 1978-1979 revolution in Iran, when the Shah of Iran was toppled, there was a similar widespread demonstration in the city of Mecca, where the Grand Mosque of Mecca was taken over by Sunni extremists. Now, the Saudi government was able to suppress it violently, but only after a couple of days where the demonstrators ran wild. So the Saudis are very nervous that they're next. They look and think all these regions and say, what if it extends to us
here?
Next?
And I should tell our viewers that some 10,000 Saudi troops are reportedly ready to be deployed to crack down on any protests. Right. Although you can see that they're taking place anyway. KT, I'll leave it at this. I want to get an answer to this question, which is, if things got out of control in Saudi Arabia, if we saw more folks participating in the day of rage, if it turns into days or weeks of rage, is that a country in which the United States would have to provide support to the existing regime?
It would have to do something, because Saudi Arabia, as I said, is the safety net. And if that oil supply in Saudi Arabia gets interrupted, if Saudi Arabia were ultimately to have a prolonged period of unrest, you would see oil prices go through they would go beyond the roof, and that would destroy any recovery the United States or the world is making. It would really throw the whole world into energy chaos. And so if there's anything that might, cause the United States to figure out some kind of aid, that would be the one place that they'd have to make a stand.
Yeah. So far, we've only received a couple of conflicting reports on Saudi police firing shots at some protesters. The response was they were shooting over their heads into the air, but we'll keep an eye on that and alert you as to how it goes. KT McFarland, thank you so much.
Okay.